with me starting like almost a decade ago, they were really, really ruthless. Like if you did not answer the phone with yamaseyo, like the native Korean language, they would literally hang up on you.
The myth is she just stalling so she could charge you. No, I'm trying to keep your hair on your head.
If I have to turn my head like this to read your packaging, I'm not gonna buy it.
When you come in, stop coming in and telling us how much to sell our stuff for.
Everyone says their hair is 4C because they're affiliated with difficulty.
The US has terrible regulations for cosmetics. Black women historically have these issues with fibroids and uterine problems, and we're trusting you, and now you're putting chemicals in it?
We decided to create a show that would give consumers that behind the scenes of what Black-owned beauty supply store owners go through, what Black-owned brands, Black-owned salons go through, to have a conversation with experts in the field, helping Black entrepreneurs break into the beauty supply industry. Let's jump into the world of Black beauty. I am Janice Frederick Spell, your host, and my guests today is Vernice and Gabby. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about the Black hair salons. So first I want to hear from you ladies. What made you get started as hairstylists and also hair salon owners? And also talk about what made you want to niche down into the type of hair salons that you guys created.
Well, for me, it was more so being the boss, the business owner, versus the actual stylist. I didn't grow up wanting to do hair. It fell upon me, and I felt more in love with the act of just owning the business. So I think part of the success is being more business-minded versus just focusing on skill set.
Okay.
For me, I literally did not want to be a hairstylist. Like I literally did not want to be one. At the time I was doing the hair blogging thing, you know, my pastor was like, you should go to school for hair. And I was like, no. You know, so I fought him on it for like a whole year, right? But it made perfect sense. And at the time, I was kind of transitioning between school and finding something else to do with my life, right? So I had kind of been really praying about it, and then he told me that like 4 more times. And I was like, listen, you know, just try it. You never know how you might like it. And I got in school, and I was actually very good at it, right? Mm-hmm. Now I own a salon. As far as the type of salon that I have, I've always wanted to be, like once I started to get in and really try to niche down and see what I wanted to do, when I fell in love with doing color, I realized what type of stylist I wanted to be.
Vernice, for you, what made you want to open the type of salon that you opened?
Well, my niche for my salon is focusing on locks. So one thing, not only do we have the natural hair industry, the Black hair industry, we also have so many aspects and different levels of what natural hair consists of. So we specialize in locks, and that's one thing. When I started my business, there was not a lot of lock focal salons where you can just come in and focus on services that's catering for locks only versus someone that is more so doing a service that may not be as skilled in it, but versus just focusing on locks. And one thing about locks is there is no standard. So we ideally created a standard for locks, something that can be repeated over and over again and prove to be successful.
So one thing I heard you talk about a little bit was the standard that you created for your salons. And fast forward to now, where it seems like a lot of hair salons have lost standards. Let's talk a little bit about that, and maybe you can speak a little bit about the misconceptions that a lot of hair salons have today.
Yeah, as far as like losing the quality or whatnot, I think when people started doing, I kind of remember the transition a little bit from when I was younger. It was when people started to like do sew-ins and stuff like that. It's kind of like, I got my hands on the technique. You don't need a license to do this. So because you don't need a license, there's no process that you go through to get to that point, right? And I mean, being 100% honest, they don't really teach professionalism in cosmetology school.
Gotcha.
You know, it's kind of something you have or you don't, or if you don't have it, you go out your way to try to learn it, or you don't. Right? But traditionally, the Black hair salon has been where we come to just lay back, kick back and chill, you know, talk, gossip, whatever, right? So I think that kind of started to translate it to I don't have to be professional because, you know, these may be my clients, but these are my friends too, quote unquote, you know. And then you start to lose it when you have new people coming in. It's kind of like, it's kind of ghetto here, you know. gonna find something a little better than this.
That's interesting that you mentioned the fact that the sew-ins, those types of styles, they don't require a license, and therefore you may get a hairstylist that's less professional, even though they don't teach professionalism in cosmetology school. Can you talk a little bit about what we're seeing now with those hairstylists?
Yeah, so what I'm saying now is like people, I recently had somebody DM me like a video and stuff. They were saying how
they're outrageous.
Yeah, they're outrageous. One girl had like 5,000 requirements to book, right? But she didn't have a license, right? I'm all for rules and policies, but I need you to have the license too. Like, I don't need you to put all these rules in place and you set no standard for yourself, right? So a lot of people, it also has a lot to do with bad financial planning, right? So you give deposits, they're living off the deposits, they're living week to week, right? So if they don't get to your service, they're like, oh, at least I got the deposit, right? Customers, on the other hand, aren't really checking to see if this person is licensed or not. They just look on the page. If the work is good, oh, cool. You really only need a license to do chemical work. And cutting services, right? So stuff like wigs, sew-ins, that's not considered to be chemical. But like color, like she said, cutting services, you can't even purchase the products needed without a license. The other stuff is kind of just like, I hate to say it like this, but it's kind of become backdoor type stuff, like underground, like you gonna get a sew-in by Kiki House? Cool.
Right.
You know.
So is that something that you would suggest viewers or consumers to ask for, is a license when looking for a new hairstylist or a salon to go to?
I would, that would be my first step, but let's talk about, like Gabby was saying, just about professionalism. Just because they have a license does not mean that they are skilled. Yeah. That you may get the quality of services that you may be expecting from a licensed cosmetologist. So I think that would be one step if you're looking for someone that may be more into hair care, because there's so many, there's the education that you're learning as a licensed cosmetologist in hair school, in cosmetology school, is everything from the anatomy, what the make of the hair, sanitation, scalp and nail disorders. There's so many different levels to the components that come as being a cosmetologist. So the first step, I would look for a license, some type of certification that shows that they are vested in their skill as well.
I agree with her. I 100% agree with it. I mean, because outside of that, I mean, you don't even really have protection as a consumer, to be honest with you. Because it's no different than buying something off, I don't want to say the black market, but off the streets. Right. And then trying to sue the man. You bought it out his trunk. What do you think's gonna happen, you know? So I definitely think consumers should take that into consideration and not just like the price point or the work issue. Because I've seen stylists who've had phenomenal work who didn't have a license, but because they lack professionalism, like people will take the abuse, but only to a point. That was like, I'm not coming back, you know, but after like the 10th time of, you know. Yeah, why? Why?
So I like that you mentioned abuse, quote unquote, because there's another conversation happening about price points and how hairstylists are charging outrageous prices for the same services that we've been getting forever. How do you guys feel about that?
With the times that we are in, you have more stylists that are taking their skill set and education beyond just cosmetology school. They're investing in workshops. They're paying top tier prices for color, advanced hands-on color classes. So with that being said, back to, you know, what to look for. You're looking for their education. You're looking for their experience as a stylist. So when I'm choosing that stylist and I see, okay, I have to come in for my consultation, it's the whole experience that they're also paying for as well. And then the professionalism. You're not going to get a certain level of professionalism from a certain level stylist. It goes hand in hand and coincides with each other. So my whole thing is, as long as you have the education, the professionalism, and the experience to back it up, we have the liberty to charge our worth, and it shows in our work.
Yeah. So I definitely believe in charging your worth, but I also feel like you need to be worth it, right? So if you just started doing the service, and let's say market rate for it, I don't know, it's maybe like $150. You cannot jump to just $500 just because you did it, right? When I first started doing extensions, I practiced for about a year and a half before I actually even started offering the service, right? But I also have invested close to like $10,000 into learning that one technique, right? So I don't believe in charging if you don't have the skills to match it. You know, you kind of need to know what level you're on. But I also don't believe that hairstylists can price gouge, because this is not a necessity. It's a luxury service. You know, you can go buy a wig. I'm sorry. You know, it's a choice. You see what I'm saying? Like, a necessity is water at your house. You know, electricity at your house. Not
So
coming to the
hairstylists
salon.
can charge whatever they want?
I mean, there's levels to everything. There's Walmart, there's Dollar Tree, there's Target, there's Chanel,
This is true.
there's Birkin, same thing.
So at what point does it become overcharging?
I don't think it
Like,
does,
never?
to be honest with you.
Okay, Gabby.
Because I know a hairstylist who charges $5,000 for extensions, and that's her starting price. Like, that is literally her starting price, and clearly people are paying it. You know, I think you just need to find what you want to pay for. There's what we would call price gouging in every market, I believe, because there's things that I find value in that, you know, I'm gonna pay. It doesn't matter, and then there are things that I'm like, no, absolutely not.
And then you still, again, you have to match the skill set with the price.
Right.
Of course, someone that, in my business, we have senior level stylists, we have junior level locticians. So someone that's just coming in as a new stylist, we are only doing demo clients, a discounted price, because we know that their skill set is not up to par with the senior level locticians. So again, skill set, but yes, there is no standard. So yes, even though she does not have, or he does not have the skill set, they can still say, this is what I charge. And it's still up to the consumer on whether or not, based off of their research, if they want to spend. But there's a budget for everyone. And there's a stylist for everyone as well. So that's something to also consider when you're talking about, well, is this stylist worth it? Is this style worth it?
So Vernice, you mentioned in your salon that you guys have tiered pricing. So tell the consumers, how does that work?
So we have tiered pricing as well as tiered services. So stylists coming in, whether they are experienced or less experienced, whether they have a license or not, there's certain services that they can or cannot do. Second, depending on their skill set and how we trade them to our standard, is going to be determined which prices that they are able to do, whether it's a demo price or a full service price. And that's where the tier comes into place, because those who are not as experienced, we're charging a lesser price. We're letting the client know, listen, we do have a lock apprentice here. We are offering a retwist at a discounted price, and they are more willing to pay that for that quality of service. We will have the clients that says, no, I need who's been there the longest, who's the best, who could get me in and out. So again, the clients, the customer, they have options, and we have a lot of options, just like any other industry within each segment of the industry. So that I think a tier system is best for any salon when you're working as a whole salon. Now, when you start talking about suites, individuals that's in their own spaces, that could be different, because ideally they're not going to put themselves on a tier.
Right. Not going to put ourselves on it. Not like, you know, you want to pay this, and then, no, it doesn't work like that. I, on the other hand, I have memberships in my salon. It depends on what you want, right? I have like a flat rate membership where you just come and get your hair treated, blow dried, you leave like that. I have one specifically for wigs, and I'm introducing one for color. So it just depends on what you want, but that price doesn't change. That is from month to month, you know.
Perfect.
And who's ever there, whoever I know is good at it, I will tell them to do it, you know. But the color is kind of tricky because that's chemistry and stuff like that. So, but yeah, like I found that model has worked best for me because it's easily expandable.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about the overbooking, because I feel like that's like my pet peeve.
And it should be.
Because you're charging a lot of money, and then I come in and I can't even get
Or a
service.
deposit. I had to put a deposit down.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
yes, all of the things.
Yeah.
And now I'm waiting, and I'm spending my whole day here.
Yeah, no, I don't believe in that. So I'm a firm believer in having assistants in the salon, right? Because when you come in, you need to start right. Your shampoo service needs to start right away. Most people overbook because, again, it goes back to financial, being able to manage their money, basically. They want to cram in as many people as they can in one day. I even saw a picture on Instagram with this girl, she was doing wigs. She put everybody's wig cap on, and then everybody was sitting down waiting. It was like, you're not leaving.
Like, there's no way you can leave right now.
There's no way you can leave after somebody has glued a wig cap on your head. Now, you're going to sit there and wait, right?
That's wild.
Yeah, it really is, right? So they try to get in as many people as they can because, like I said, it goes back to managing money. The mindset is, I'm going to get this next week. I'm going to get some more next week. So, and it depends on the salon that you're in. Traditionally, the salons I have worked in, we always had somebody coming in selling food, selling corsets. There was always somebody coming in selling something, right? So it's like, I made X amounts a day. I can pay for this, but then you don't factor in doing this every day or doing this every other day. So by the time you get to the next week, it's like, yeah, you made $2,000 last week, $2,500 last week, but you broke this week because you've just been dishing it out without counting it. So I also think that's not explained to consumers, and honestly, that's not even your responsibility. That's on them. But when I do explain it to consumers, they kind of understand a little better. I can almost even say they kind of empathize with the stylist too, because they don't realize all of the nuances, that it's not just bad service. There is something behind the bad service. I don't agree with it, but I do understand it.
So how do we circumvent that?
They need to get better at finances, basically.
And it's time management as well.
That too.
One thing about the black beauty industry and our black salons, that's how we started on the hustle. We had the kitchen full, everybody lined up. So that's also more of a tradition that we as black owners or black stylists tend to do out of generation. And so what's going on now is how do we compete against our other counterparts? And it's incorporating a system, time management. The system is going to help you balance out your financials. It's going to help you balance your time. Not being stingy. Get you an assistant is here to help. Sometimes we want to keep it all. We don't want to give the $5 to the shampoo assistant.
Not the $5.
The $5. That's going to bring you a whole nother $150 because you done save so much time on just the basic parts of the service where you was able to do more clients that day versus having them stacked back to back or on top of each other. And then now I think for me is still overbooking and requesting a deposit, and I'm still coming in late and someone else has my appointment time that I put money down for. I definitely agree with consumers that it's enough is enough.
It's a little ghetto.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot, right? And it's crazy because at the same time we want our clients to respect our time. Oh, if they're 10 minutes late, you're canceled. No deposit. You can't get your deposit back. But when it's on our end, it's like, hey, Miss Jackie, I'll be with you in about 20 minutes. No, it's not acceptable. Yeah. So I think the time of overbooking is kind of, I don't know. Is it that bad?
Oh, absolutely. It's bad.
It was bad. Okay, so we have a standard. We don't do overbooking here at Shayla.
But it's also exposure and proximity, right?
Okay.
I can say for me, I used to work for Joico. I used to work for that color company. And being there, I worked with less melanated folks, right? And I saw how they worked. A lot of them own salons. They would explain stuff to me, and I'd never heard that. In a black salon. Well, honestly, to be completely honest, one of the reasons that I was vehemently against being a hairstylist because I thought they were poor. I thought they were poor. Like I really did. So being around those people, like so for example, I was at a hair show working, right? They had like a $7,000 bowl. And at the time, I was not making anywhere where I could even afford that, right? But I'm watching hairstylists walk up and just give their credit cards. And I was like, wait a minute. We do the same thing. This math is not mathing. Right. Something is wrong here, right? So then I started to really ask my coworkers questions. Well, what are you doing? This, that, and then they started to explain it to me and it started to make sense. But prior to that, my only exposure to the hairstyling world was in black salons.
So do you think that they were withholding information from you?
What the
black hairstylists and the black
No,
salons?
I really believe they don't know.
They didn't know.
They don't know.
They don't know? Okay.
They really don't know. And it's a cultural thing, right? Like, there's this thing where this idea that a white person or an Asian person or a Hispanic person can't teach me anything about my hair. Well, that's absolutely false. I learned color from everybody else. I didn't learn it from us, right? Because in that, what color is color. It doesn't matter, right? But because I was exposed to that, I was also exposed to a different way of thinking, a different way of looking at the salon. Because what I heard
you talk about is that you were taught some of like the business aspects from people who did not look like you. And I'm just curious, where did...
You kind of have to go to those people to learn it. But if you're closed-minded and you feel like you can only learn from me or Vernice, you won't learn those things.
I believe I learned when it comes down just to texture, I received a better understanding working with other races when it comes to texture. Knowing how a particular texture will resist or how it will take color versus we just everyone thinks when it comes to our people, we all think we have nappy hair. We do not. That's the first, my hair is nappy. What, this curly hair, these curls, this is not nappy. So I've learned more about the different types of texture, being more educated from others versus our own, because we only see one thing.
Exactly. And I actually, some of the most successful black hairstylists that I've met, the common theme between all of us, we learn from different races.
So how do we bridge that gap?
Child, that's a great question.
Because I don't think our viewers are aware of that, because I wasn't.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I'm doing my classes, my online academy, I actually, even in my free trainings, I tell them, like, go learn from other people. Stop being so closed-minded. But it's such a hard thing because it's like they're looking at the person like, you don't look like me. You can't tell me anything about my hair. They'll circle back and come ask me again. And I'm like, you're still not getting it. You're still not learning. You know, where you need to go. So, for example, right, Bronner Brothers is what, like $50, $90 to get in? The other hair shows are like $600.
Wow, yeah.
$200, $300. But in the black salons, you're in proximity to the person next to you. If they're going to Bronner Brothers and the next person's going to all y'all know is Bronner Brothers, right?
Right.
So when you see a ticket price at $600 versus $50 or $90, you're like, well, what am I paying for when I could just go to Bronner? Everybody else is going to Bronner
and get the same thing
instead of behind the chair or Premier or something like that, where there is diversity, but there's not as much diversity as you would think with it being a hair show.
And do you think a part of that problem is them wanting to just do black hair as well?
I think it's them wanting to be around their people and uncomfortable around the other ones.
It's definitely about comfort.
Yeah.
Because the same, you could go on a set and the whole crew is like Caucasian, and you will take this stylist that probably went to cosmetology school in high school in the city, and she will feel uncomfortable flat iron a Caucasian person hair versus someone that has a wig on. Why? It's the same hair. It's the same hair. It's going to flat iron the same way. But why are you intimidated because it's another race? And I think a part of that is the education. When it comes to the cosmetology field, we're not getting, I don't believe that we're getting the same education that someone that goes to a Paul Mitchell may get.
No.
Or a Veda. And then why is it? Because hair is hair. We're learning the fundamentals and the foundation of hair. So why are we not getting that same education even in the hair school, in the hair industry?
Because they also look at it like, I'm just doing hair, right?
I'm just doing hair.
Because I went to instructor school at Paul Mitchell, but my initial cosmetology education was at all black school, right? At that school, I would call and ask my fellow students, hey, just write my name on a paper. I'm not there yet. Okay, I want my hours. Just give my time. Paul Mitchell, you actually had to come in and use your thumb.
Ooh.
So no one can just clock you in. The standard is different. You couldn't even walk in there without makeup on. If you walked in there without makeup on, they sent you home. You better go in the bathroom and fix it. Contrast is like they started off telling us in cosmetology school, you have to come with makeup, but after a while it was like, no one's paying attention, so I'm not gonna do it. So the standards are
Yeah,
different.
so I'm hearing it's the standard, and also the education piece is way different.
Yes.
It's way different.
Yes.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah, it's drastic.
So what's the biggest myth or misconception that you wish consumers knew about being a hairstylist or owning a hair salon?
That just being a hairstylist is just not a hustle or a side job. It's an actual career for a lot of us. That there are 6 and 7 figure hairstylists out here. So we do come with professionalism. No, we are not the same when you are trying to compare us or someone else's work to what we do. And I just think, put a little bit more respect on our name.
Oh, boo,
okay?
yes.
We have retirement plans and next level promotions within the industry as well as the Black industry. And another myth is that we don't have any professional salons or corporate salons. We do. Yeah. We do have different tier salons as well.
I think for me, it's the misconception that we pocket all of the money that we charge you. That doesn't happen like that, right? We have overhead, and I think people forget that. Whether you rent at a salon, even if you're at a commission salon, the salon itself has overhead. So we don't pocket everything. And it's constant expenses. It's constant, right? So people just see the style and the finished product, and they're like, wait, that was what? But if you have extensions, I had to pay for those extensions. If you have color, I had to pay for the lightener. I had to pay for the color. If you have extensions and color, I had to pay for the extensions and the color.
Yeah, because I say come for you in
Yeah.
your comments, Gabby. I be feeling bad for my friend.
And on top of that, especially if you're independent, you don't have health insurance. You're paying for that out of pocket. You have to think about the future. What about retirement? So it's not
taxes.
the money, taxes. It's not just the money for today, right? It's for the future. And as far as them coming for me, it's because
I be feeling bad.
You shouldn't. Because I be fine. I be on the other end of the phone laughing, But I was kind of expecting it when I decided to go the route that I went, because to be quite honest with you, Black colorists are like unicorns, right?
Yes,
that's true.
And
Absolutely.
people don't understand why a service takes me 9 to 12 hours. Right? The myth is like, she just stalling so she could charge you. No, I'm trying to keep your hair on your head.
Right.
Because if you leave here, you bald in a month, then you're
Right.
gonna blame me.
Right.
So you don't see, because I notice a lot of Black hairstylists, they don't really get into the science of color. The chemistry of it, I love it. I live it, I breathe it, right? The consumer, it doesn't translate to the consumer as this takes time. There's a method to the madness, right? This costs a lot of product, depending on what you're getting. So for me, it's the misconceptions about pricing and where the money itself goes. And I feel like we're one of the only people that got to explain where the money goes.
Right.
Why? Are you gonna give me more for my overhead? Are you gonna tip me 50%? So I could buy some more stuff? No? Okay, well, just saying. So I need people to know that the salon business is just that, a business.
Thank you, ladies, so much for joining the conversation. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for our next episode.
The Convo, your home for conversations on Black entrepreneurship and wealth, available on your favorite platforms.